did?
Oh, we actually
10:02.
No, it's 10:02. What is it? As soon as it pops up in our IP, then it's fire. Roger, sir. Well, it's status. It's just our AO.
That's just our AO.
Yeah, the whole country. It was spread out all over the country. What's that?
Apollo 8-1. Sound range and
scared the shit out of me.
One, this is 1-1 over. Check doors, check doors. You don't have any, you need the door shut. Hey, slam your door, slam your door!
Run this machinery.
Start by saying and spelling your first and last name.
Okay. Brandon Jarman, B-R-A-N-D-O-N J-A-R-M-A-N.
And your title for the exercise?
Battery Commander, Alpha Battery, 1st Battalion, 147th Field Artillery.
As we do the interview, you can just focus on me.
Okay.
So, what's the overall purpose for this training exercise here?
The overall purpose of this exercise is a joint exercise between allied nations. There's over 22 allied nations, active duty, reserve, and National Guard American forces coming together to basically test our interoperability to see how we would connect together in the event of a conflict or something that would happen in the Eastern European theater. Build relationships and also provide some reassurance to our allies that we're able to support them if they were ever to come to that.
You bet. And so when you do training exercises like out in Guernsey, you're typically on your own, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So how's this been different by working with a battalion and then a division?
You know, we normally operate with our battalion, so that's not uncommon for us. However, being a part of that bigger piece of the puzzle, the live fire exercise that we've taken part in, both joint fires with multiple nations, as well as active duty, integrating tube artillery, aviation assets. That's a piece that we don't normally get to exercise, and then also falling under DVARDI and having them kind of generate the pace of the fire missions that we were executing. That's kind of a new piece for us, and it's been a growing event for us. We've grown a lot through that, and kind of to see where we fit in the scheme of things, where that long range fires falls into the big piece of the Army play on things. So.
You bet. And I understand you're getting your objective training in as well. How did that process unfold for you?
You know, we brought our own observer controllers to assess our training. The active duty counterparts that are here were more focused on the exercise itself and weren't seeing it as much a large scale training exercise. They were focused on the live fire event. We took it as took advantage of it as, we were coming to essentially train to deploy, establish an area in a foreign country and be able to execute missions. And so we really leaned forward in that, trying to seek out training opportunities that were here with the land that was available to us, movements, night movements, not just being so focused on the fire, but the overall piece of our training, and our different metal tasks that we would have to accomplish. And so we were really aggressive in that stance that we needed to push our training. It wasn't just to get ready to live fire, because as artillery we're really good at live firing, but it's the survivability, the moving, and the communicating that can sometimes struggle. And so I was really pleased with the overall performance of the unit as we've gone through and watched the growth of my subordinate leaders as they've gained confidence in their skills and understanding, the importance of those survivabilities and moving and communicating and really stretching our capabilities. So yeah, I've been very, very pleased with that.
That's an awesome answer. How do you feel like this training has helped prepare you for those deployments or real world scenarios?
We've had a lot of pitfalls along the way, working with, active duty and understanding their planning horizon. As National Guard, we sometimes forget that people don't plan, a year, 6 months, a year and a half out. Active Army is a lot more comfortable in that 1 month, even 2 week time frame. They can make things execute in that short amount of time, where us having our soldiers only, 1 weekend a month, we really need to project out and really take advantage of our time leading up to that. And so that's been one piece. Also the deployment piece. So often with the deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, you're falling in on somebody else's equipment. Well, we brought our equipment from home station, loaded it on a boat, went through all the processes of getting it cleared to ship, cleaned, ready to go. And then on the way home, we're going to have to clean it, inspected by customs, and to see what that piece is to take basically our entire MTO, put it on a boat, bring it to a foreign country, and then take it home. It's been a real learning experience at that front. And then also the logistics piece of who supports us, who can support us, you know, establishing those relationships, both with civilian contractors and active duty counterparts of what does that piece look like. And that's where a lot of the growth of the unit is taking place, where I feel confident now if we were to get a call that the members of this unit would understand what it would take to get the equipment ready and available to ship in the shortest amount of time.
Absolutely. And thinking about those relationships and working with active duty and allied nations, how do you feel like those that interoperability aids your team's mission?
It just, you learn that you can trust them. Watching the Romanians and their LRAMs fire, you know, how their accuracy may not be as you know, tight as ours. You know, they're more of an area fire weapon, but to see the crew drills that they go through and the training and the, you know, the ability to do time on targets with them and, you know, mass fires with allied nations, something that, you know, in theory should happen, but until you get on the ground and actually can execute that with them side by side and see their TTPs and realize they're really not that different than yours, and that we, you know, if push came to shove and we went to a linear battlefield and we had to rely on them, we know that their fires can be responsive and, you know, would aid in our overall mission as well.
Great answer, sir. And so what's been so unique about this training exercise being out in Romania for your unit?
You know, there's times, you know, just because we're here and it doesn't feel too much dissimilar to the terrain that we've trained in before, except there's the Romanian piece that's here in the multinational. But seeing the scope of the exercise has been really incredible. The amount of assets that have been brought in to, you know, conduct this exercise, and the planning conferences ahead of time, you know, the relationships built. You know, we're going to have a sit down with our Romanian counterparts here, a lunch here in a day or two, and so soldiers at their level will get to meet their counterparts, and, you know, they've watched each other fire now and just kind of share that camaraderie. And anytime you share a meal or you know, fellowship with, you know, your allies and your you know, brothers in arms, you're going to build that relationship and that trust, and that's the big thing.
So what units, or excuse me, what critical components are needed in order to make a mission like this successful for you?
The big thing is support. The state headquarters has provided us a ton of support. The brigade and the battalion have lended us, you know, both through experience and knowledge base, and even people on the ground helping us move the, you know, chart the waters of this. You know, a battery, we're not designed to, you know, inherently to move ourselves. We need somebody above us to, you know, provide life support. You know, when we came here, basically I brought a platoon of our MST from our FSC. I've got commo support from HHB. I pulled extra soldiers from Bravo Battery to plus us up to make sure that we would be ready for the mission. And so, you know, to all of a sudden realize that I can't do it on my own, you know, if you go back 10, 15 years when, you know, your life support was in the battery, you had your maintenance, you had your mess sections, and all you had to do was just, you know, find a logistic way to draw it. That was one thing, but it's another thing now when you literally can't survive without somebody else on the battlefield with you. You know, that's the piece that really kind of, you know, hits home. And the support that we got was outstanding going into this. We, you know, if we had questions or concerns, you know, we were able to reach out. And even 1st Cav Devarty, their force section has done an amazing job. And you think, you know, somebody at like a division artillery level, you know, what are they really concerned about somebody at a battery level? But, you know, they know my project officer by first name, and they'll seek me out as the commander. You know, both the command sergeant major and the Devarty commander know me personally, and to know that they'll reach out to me and make sure that I'm being taken care of. That relationship has been forged and strengthened, and it's been, you know, extremely positive. So
not only is that cool to hear, but that's an awesome soundbite as well. So my last question is just, is there anything you'd like to say or add that I haven't given you an opportunity to say?
I guess I would just say that I'm so extremely proud to be a commander of a unit like this. You know, you sit there in cantonment and there's thousands of soldiers around, active duty and otherwise, and you watch the way they carry themselves. And then I watch my battery and I watch the soldiers that came with to support the battery, you know, members of the 147th and you know, a few other groups throughout the state. And the professionalism that this unit displayed was quickly picked up on by a vast number of people on ground. I couldn't even state the amount of comments that I received of wow, I can't believe you guys are doing this. You know, we're the first, one of the first National Guard units to push forward and use Harris radio, long range radio, to conduct live fire exercise with MLRS. You know, just constantly seeking that next challenge. There's so many professionals here, and to be able to lead them and to have their efforts be recognized by so many people that normally wouldn't get to see us when we were at Guernsey or Ripley or, you know, something like that, is really humbling and honoring to me to be able to share what I know, you know, daily when I'm commanding my soldiers, that I know the professionals I have, but to be able to put them on display and to go before, you know, the Vardy commander and the battalion commander that we fell under, and constantly, you know, seek their praise and you know, have them seek out our soldiers by name. This soldier, I recognize them to be, you know, exceptional, and that was really great.
Well, we really appreciate you allowing us to attach to your unit and come along with too. And at first, you know, no one was really talking to us, but the more we got to know everybody, you got a really neat unit here, a lot of camaraderie, and like you said, great professionalism. We just appreciate you letting us tag along. Did you have anything? Okay. All right, I always have you start by saying and spelling your first and last name.
Right now?
Yep.
Last name's Tyler, Tyler.
And your first name?
Nicholas,
You spell that too.
Nicholas.
And what's your title with the unit?
I'm a Staff Sergeant, Launcher Chief.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna have you take just a little step to your right there. Okay, and then as we do the interview, you can just focus on me.
Okay. All right. Ready?
Yep.
I don't remember what I said.
It was really good.
So, Alpha of the 147th out of Aberdeen was tasked with coming to Romania for annual training this year. And we're working with the Vardy, main body of active duty Army, in conjunction with 5th of 113th Field Artillery, to show them what our differences are and our similarities, what we're capable of with our launchers and their HIMARS, and conduct operations for field artillery.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so what's the overall purpose, like what's your overall mission from your unit perspective for this training?
For our particular unit, what we do is occupy an area, and when we receive fire missions, we pull out there and conduct those fire missions and then move back to the area of operations.
And what's the experience like from your perspective inside the launcher?
Launchers are pretty good most of the time. We have a few mechanical bugs. That's the launcher chief's job, is to know what's wrong with them and get maintenance fixing them. But they're really great, they're useful. We can go pretty much anywhere with these tracks. We don't have really any problems of getting from one terrain to the other. They shoot in the light and in the dark and in the heat and the cold, so they're great weapon.
And how often do you guys get the chance to live fire like this?
Live fire is only once a year when we do our annual training. We try to get out as much as we can during the rest of the year. It's been more and more, usually about 8 to 10 times a year we get to take them out at least for one day.
Okay, and how do you feel like that helps you guys prepare for those real-world scenarios or deployments?
We train all of our guys that are in the launcher, the drivers, the gunners, and the chiefs, swap around, make sure everybody knows everybody's job in there. That way, when we do get called up, everybody's proficient in any job, in case anybody gets promoted right before we leave, or you know, somebody gets hurt and someone else has to step up. Anybody can come in and take care of any part of that job, and do a good job on it.
Perfect answer. What's it like, from your perspective, to work with ally units and ally nations in a training exercise like this?
It's been a different experience working with the Allied and the active duty and other units. A little bit of different pace than we're used to. Some of the communication's been difficult, but overall it's a learning experience for us and teaches us how we are going to operate if we get called up for an actual deployment.
You bet. Because usually in your training, you guys typically train alone, right? With just your battalion?
Yes, it's our battalion, and we're pretty hard working, so we usually push a lot more rockets than other people do. We can get a lot more done in shorter time, and now when we're waiting for fire missions to come from higher up than battalion, it takes a lot longer, so it's a little bit of an adjustment for us, but you know, that's the way it's going to be real world.
Absolutely. And so thinking about that real world, how do you feel like that interoperability that you've faced here will aid your guys' mission?
Well, now we know a little bit more what to expect. We can prepare our launchers a little bit more for the downtime that they're going to have. Maybe come up with some ways to try to keep them cooled down in between while we're waiting in our hides for the fire missions. Better prepared with sleep plans for our guys, and just have a better overall idea of what it's going to be like.
What do you think has been so unique about this training experience for your unit and your team?
The most unique thing about being here is our field time. We spend a lot more time in the field here than we have at any other typical AT. And the weather conditions are a little bit different. They change really quickly here. It's pretty hot in the day, and then it's rained a lot at night, and we had storms come in within 10 minutes that downpour, so we don't necessarily get that back home very often.
Awesome. Basically, my next question was, what challenges have you faced here and how have you overcome them? You've pretty much already answered that. So in order to make your guys' mission successful, what critical components do you need to work that out?
The most critical component that we have, we're all a team, but maintenance is very, very important. Maintenance and commo and our support staff, keeping these things running. It's not as bad for us. We just kind of do our job and it's pretty easy, but those guys really behind the scenes work real hard. They'll work all night and keep our launchers going, and if we have problems, they have the parts and they'll come out and they will work days to make sure that we can complete our mission.
Perfect. Yeah, it was cool to get an opportunity to do a story like on your 94 Papas and Brooks and them. Yeah, super nice people, and like you said, they were working nonstop around the field. Do you have any questions? My last question is always hit or miss. Is there anything you'd like to add or say that I've given you an opportunity to?
You know, I guess I would. A lot of the credit goes to our guys that have been out in the field and working hard. Without all these lower enlisted guys and even the NCOs, you know, all the time and effort that we put into it, you know, none of this would have been possible. The timelines and stuff that we were given were somewhat unrealistic, and we hit every one of those because of those guys. So they did a great job out here.
Beautiful answer, Sergeant. Okay, I always have you start by saying and spelling your first and last name.
Jesse Holman, Jesseholman.
And what's your title for this exercise?
I'm the Fire Directions Chief for Alpha Battery.
Okay, first to 147?
Yes.
Perfect. As we do the interview, you can just focus on me.
Okay.
So what was the overall purpose for this training exercise in Romania?
The overall purpose for this training exercise in Romania was to work with multinational forces along with other field artillery units throughout the Army in order to provide long-range fire support for maneuver elements.
Awesome. And so how often does the unit get a chance to live fire like this?
We live fire generally once a year.
Okay. And so when you do live fire, how do you feel like that helps your unit prepare for those real life scenarios that you may see in the deployment?
It helps with not just doing a dry mission. You're actually working with live pods. So our ammo crews, our launcher crews, they all get to work with that live ammo. Along with it, changes things up a little bit at the FDC with the way we have to process the fire mission.
Okay. And what's it like to work with, so you mentioned, you know, working with allied units and allied nations. What's it like to do that?
It was an eye-opener. It's
So I mean, like in Guernsey, you typically are out on your own pretty much, right?
Roger.
So what kind of challenges have you faced by working with those allied units?
Basically coordination of fires. We had close air that was working with us along with the other maneuver elements. So coordinating those fire missions along with their movements was a challenge that we've never had to deal with before.
How do you feel like that's going to help your unit prepare or, you know, build to be more prepared to accomplish your overall mission?
It makes it a lot more lifelike situation. We actually have to watch for that stuff, whereas usually when we train with just our battalion, when we go to camp, it's just us out there, so it's just basically a shoot and scoot type of scenario, where now we have to pay attention to when that close air is coming in, when those maneuver elements are moving. It's pretty challenging.
Awesome answer, Sergeant. And for you, what do you feel like has been so unique about being able to bring your unit to Romania and train here with the brigade and the division?
The uniqueness of this mission was we haven't done this since, I believe, back in the 80s. I mean, it's about as close to a deployment as you can get without actually deploying, from getting your equipment ready, your soldiers ready, getting everything here, getting your soldiers here safely, moving to the field, conducting field operations, all the way to moving back to the rear, getting everybody on the plane to get home.
Perfect. What critical components are needed in order to make your mission successful?
It starts with good leadership, goes down to a good plan, having good soldiers to accomplish that plan.
Okay. What have you enjoyed most about being able to be here? I know that it's been frustrating at times and lack of sleep and everything, but in big picture, what have you enjoyed most about seeing your soldiers work through it, get these challenges done, and be able to make a mission successful?
Could you ask that again?
Absolutely. So just generally, what have you enjoyed most about being able to come here and seeing your soldiers work together to accomplish a mission?
The most enjoyable part about it is watching these sections come together. As I said, I'm the Battery Operations Center Chief. I have 2 platoon operations center chiefs that each have about a 4 or 5 man crew, and just watching them gel and come together, accomplish their tasks, process fire missions, it's pretty awesome seeing it all come together.
Perfect. Do you have anything? Is there anything you'd like to say or add that I haven't given you a chance to yet?
No.
It's always a hit and miss on that one. Okay, we always have you start by saying and spelling your first and last name.
All right, Lieutenant Colonel Paul W. Hollenack, P-A-U-L-L-E-N-A-C-K.
And what's your title for this exercise?
I'm the battalion commander for 5th Battalion, 5th Battalion, 113th Field Artillery Regiment. A little early today.
Yeah,
all right.
Absolutely. So yeah, you can just focus on me now the
Okay.
rest of the interview. So we'll get right into it. So what was the overall purpose for this training exercise?
So the overall purpose for this training exercise was for us to be able to deploy and show our commitment to our NATO allies for our common defense. To be able to get here, show our interoperability through a fire support coordination exercise and a combined arms live fire exercise that showed that we can integrate maneuver, air, and artillery from various partner nations into concentrated effects on the battlefield.
And from your battalion perspective, how has the 147th aided your guys' mission?
So we've very much enjoyed having Alpha Battery here with us. This used to be an MLRS unit, and so I think a lot of our guys had some flashbacks to the good old days of being on the tracks. So I think we understood how they operate, which was good, but they brought a new and different capability. And especially coming from another state, a different perspective on training and on how they operate, which I think we all were able to mutually learn from. We learned a lot about communications. They had some good training practices that we were able to see and look at emulating in the future. And I think they got a lot out of working with us and some of the things we've been doing around communications and command and control that they felt were good practices they could bring back. So it's been a very mutually beneficial partnership.
Absolutely. And compared to, how long have you been commander?
Just since October, so about 10 months now.
Have you done other exercises with the Field Artillery?
Not in the Guard, but I've done other things similar to this.
Okay.
Yes.
So I guess from a cooperative aspect, how do you feel like the 147th has compared to other exercises?
Oh, I think it was one of the most seamless integrations you could ask for. You know, we had the benefit of visiting South Dakota back in March just to build some relationships and to cover some technical ground to make sure we were going to not have any issues that way. And it was obvious then that we were a pretty good match. And when we got here, they hit the ground running. And I think it's been, I hate to say seamless, but very nearly seamless. We've had our hiccups, but they've just been part of the team. Our guys have clicked really well. We've shared resources. And so it's just like they're another battery of 5th Battalion.
That's awesome to hear. And so the culmination of this whole exercise is kind of this Distinguished Visitors Day.
Mm-hmm.
From your perspective, what's the significance of today?
This is really the demonstration. There's going to be several heads of state here, defense ministers, to show how we can combine effects on the battlefield. And I got to see a part of a couple of the rehearsals, and it's pretty impressive. You don't get to see this much hardware in one place, concentrating effects in one spot with helicopter gunships, fixed-wing aircraft, and then just a seemingly endless line of fighting vehicles and armor all attacking. It really shows what we can bring to the battlefield as a combined force.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what goes on.
Absolutely.
Something we've been struggling to get as far as information is how do we relate in this exercise, or how are we working with the Romanian Army here?
So mainly for us, it's really a level above us is where the true coordination is happening at the brigade, artillery brigade level, where they're determining what targets maybe a U.S. asset attacks versus a Romanian asset. At the battalion level, there's not a lot of coordination at the fire control, but in any exercise or in any event, you're always coordinating with units on your left and right. And so with the 83rd Larone being on our right flank, we've had a lot of direct coordination, deconflicting terrain, deconflicting where U.S. forces are on the battlefield, sharing space for our part of our fire direction center, and sharing resources like their ambulance and doing some combined medevac exercises. So that for us is where the main interaction comes in.
Okay, thank you for helping me out with that, sir. My last question is, and it might be a little redundant, is what's the main significance, or what do you see that your unit or our units are getting that will benefit our unit or impact the National Guard?
I think this exercise replicates in many, many ways what it's like to deploy and fight. And so you'll hear people talk about the friction of showing up and things not being where they thought they were and this unit's not doing their job. That's real life. That's what happens when you hit the ground and everybody's new and you're figuring it out. So it really forces us to adapt and overcome. You're not just rolling to the training area you've been to 10 times. You have to learn new terrain. You have to do a little more planning. You have to adapt. And so I think if you look at the fundamental tasks we trained, they weren't that much different, but we fundamentally changed the conditions in which we operated, and that really challenged us in our processes and systems, and that's where the learning comes.
Beautiful. And is there anything you'd like to say or add that I haven't given you a chance to?
No, I just say thanks to the 1st of the 147th for providing us a great unit. We really enjoyed working with them, and we're hoping this turns into a longer-term relationship between our two states and our two artillery battalions.
You bet. And just from Sergeant K's and I perspective,